This is true story of 5 brave soldiers who fought with 300 Nazis in World War II. Will they survive? Let's see. April 1945, and the Allies have entered Germany. A lone Nazi soldier rides his horse through a field where a battle has been fought. As he rides past a seemingly busted tank, U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Don Wardity Collier jumps out and stabs him repeatedly. He sets the horse free and returns to the inside of his tank, where the rest of his crew. They are clearly tired and battle-hardened as they argue and berate each other as Grady attempts to fix their tank. Grady finally fixes the tank, and they drive back to base. After arriving at the base, Collier orders his men to quickly refuel and resupply the tank and get it ready to move out again. Collier takes a quiet moment for himself and breaks down briefly, feeling the rigor and stress of the war. A young soldier, Norman Ellison, approaches Collier and tells him that he's been assigned to his tank crew. Collier is angry that someone so young would be assigned to his crew and questions Ellison. Ellison tells him he's been in the army for only 8 weeks and has no tank training, as he was trained as a typing clerk. Ellison meets the rest of the crew who are also dismissive of him. They go through his pack and question him, though they clearly don't actually care about his answers. Bible asks Ellison about his religion and asks him if he's been saved, as he is continually trying to save his whole crew. The crew orders Ellison to get a bucket of hot water and clean out the inside of the tank. When Ellison gets inside, he cleans up the gruesome remains, including a piece of the gunner's face that was blown off, and exits the tank to vomit. When it becomes too much for him, Collier becomes enraged when he sees that an SS officer is being marched through the US base, as he is being taken to the commander for questioning. Collier tries to beat him, but his crew holds him back. The lieutenant tells them that their new orders are to head out to meet Baker Company and then to take over a small town, and he will lead the convoy in his own tank. Fury's crew throws Norman into the tank and tell him to shoot every German he sees. As the convoy continues, the convoy begins to pass a dense forest, and Collier warns them to shoot at anything they see, because German soldiers could be hiding, waiting to attack the tanks. Norman sees someone moving through the bushes, but hesitates when he sees it's a child. Gordo calls it out at the last second before a Panzerfaust warhead is launched at the lead tank, instantly setting it aflame. Everyone fires into the bushes while the lieutenant in the lead tank, completely engulfed in flames, screaming in agony, shoots himself in the head to keep from burning alive. Collier berates Norman for failing to shoot and tells him the lieutenant's death is his fault. The convoy continues, led by Collier, and meets Baker Company. Collier meets with Captain Wagoner, the man in charge. Wagoner asks Collier to take the 4 remaining tanks and some of his troops and go rescue men who are trapped in a field fighting a German troop that are armed with anti-tank weaponry. After rescuing the men, they will rendezvous outside the town they are to overtake and go in together. Collier suggests a different route for the mission, and Wagoner tells him that he knows his reputation and trusts his instincts. Collier leads the 4 tanks to the battlefield and belittles Norman. The tanks turn into the field, approaching a tree line where the Germans are based. As the tanks pass the troops lying in the field, the troops roll into the trail of the tank, taking cover behind it. The Germans open fire, and the tanks return fire. Again, Norman hesitates to shoot, and when he does, he misses wildly and takes far too long to reload his gun. The rest of the crew is a well-oiled machine. The troops run out from behind the tanks to enter the fight, and soon, the battle is over with all the Germans killed. However, the troops find one German soldier in the woods and bring him to the center of a circle of soldiers. They all laugh as they shove him around and taunt him. The Sauleiter begs for mercy. Collier orders him to his knees and he gives Norman a handgun and orders him to kill the German soldier. Norman refuses to do so, saying he's unarmed and surrendering, and Collier hits him over and over. Collier takes Norman in a chokehold and puts the gun in Norman's hand, putting his finger on the trigger. And then finally Collier pulls the trigger over Norman's hand. The other men stand around and cheer. Norman is traumatized over what's happened, and the Fury crew tries to calm him down. They speak to him kindly, giving him coffee and telling him about the fears they all faced. Collier reappears and in a more compassionate way tells Norman he should rest and get something to eat. They continue to the town where they reconvene with Wagoner and the rest of the troops. They slowly go through the town. Collier asks an elderly German man walking about where the soldiers are hiding, only to watch him be shot through the head by a sniper, setting off the battle. They encounter pockets of Germans hiding in various buildings. After firing a white phosphorus round through one building with a hidden anti-tank gun in it, several Nazi soldiers come running out, screaming in agony as they are on fire. Several US soldiers just watch them burning alive until Norman finally guns them down. Gordo congratulates him on his first kill, but tells him that he should have let them burn to death. They continue through the town until they come to a building where a German man holds out a white flag. Collier calls the man out, and the German man tells him that the soldiers inside want to surrender. Collier agrees to let them exit the building with their hands up. More children in army uniforms run out of the building, followed by an adult wearing an officer's uniform. Collier asks the German man if the officer is the one who's been stringing up children along the road. The German man nods. Collier orders one of the troops to kill the officer on the spot. As the troops celebrate taking over the town, they see a woman peer through a curtain in a building, and Collier takes Norman with him to investigate. Collier forces his way into the apartment and asks the woman if she's hiding soldiers, and she nervously tells him that she's not. He searches the apartment before finding a beautiful, young woman hiding under the bed. They are both trembling with fear. He speaks to them calmly in German. He gives the younger woman 2 packs of cigarettes as a gift. He also gives her 6 eggs to prepare for them to eat. Irma and Emma calm down, and they prepare lunch for the men. Norman sits at their piano and demonstrates that he is a skilled player. Emma is charmed by his playing and sings along to it. Collier tells Norman that Emma is a nice, clean girl, and he better take her into the bedroom, or he will. Emma takes Norman by the hand and leads him into the bedroom. Irma tries to stop them, but Collier tells her to leave them alone as they're young. He kisses her gently, and she pulls him onto the bed. Meanwhile, other crewmember also come. After eating, a Sawlighter enters the apartment and tells Collier that Wagoner wants to speak with him. The crew gets up to leave, but Norman tries to talk to Emma, but Grady drags him away as they reach out for each other. Wagoner tells Collier that a pilot saw German troops marching toward a US supply base, where many medics and supplies are stationed. He wants Collier to take Fury and the other 2 tanks up to a crossroads and to keep the Nazis from disrupting the supply chain, which would be a huge loss to the US Army. Meanwhile, an artillery barrage hits the small town, and everyone takes cover. When Norman emerges from under the tank, he sees that Emma and Irma's building has been destroyed, but he runs to it, hoping to rescue Emma. He sees Emma's dead body and returns to the tank, crushed. The 4 tanks head to the crossroads, but come under fire from a superior German Tiger tank that was sitting in an ambush position. The Tiger takes out 2 of the tanks, leaving only Fury. Gordo tries to maneuver Fury behind the German tank so they can shoot it from behind in its only weak point. Fury takes a couple of hits from the German tank, but they do only small damage. They finally take out the Tiger, but they are left alone with a busted radio. Bible tells the men again that God was watching over them and wasn't ready to call them home. They continue on to the crossroads, and as they are about to approach the top of a hill, they run over a mine by a farmhouse, disabling the tank tracks. They try to fix the tank while Norman and Grady check inside the farmhouse to ensure no enemy soldiers are hiding inside. Inside the farmhouse, they find that it's been turned into a makeshift hospital, but everyone has died. Grady takes a moment to apologize to Norman and tell him that he's a good man. They return to Fury, and Collier tells Norman to head up to the hilltop to stand watch for the troops. Norman heads up to the trees and sits quietly. Soon he hears the marching song of the Nazis and peers out to see hundreds of SS troops. He races back down the hill and tells the crew what he saw. Grady, Gordo and Bible gather their guns in packs, hoping to find somewhere to hide before the Nazi troops arrive, knowing the 5 of them alone cannot stop hundreds of German troops. Collier, however, says that he's never run from a fight before. Fury is his home, and he won't abandon it, but he tells the men to go and leave him there. Norman refuses to leave and gets on the tank with him. One by one, Bible, Gordo and Grady all rejoin the tank. They take stock of their inventory: ammo, tank shells, grenades and smoke bombs. They retrieve a dead body from the farmhouse, put it on the tank, cover it in a US Army jacket, and set it along with their packs on the ground on fire. Then they sit inside and wait. They hear the Nazi troops approaching and fall silent, preparing themselves for the worst. The Germans approach the tank, seeing the body on fire, and assuming that the tank must be destroyed and its crew is dead. The men inside wait as more and more enemy soldiers get closer to the tank, climbing on board, as well as clustering closer together. Suddenly, Collier and his men throw out several grenades and open fire on the Germans, catching them by surprise. The Fury crew fires shell after shell and guns down dozens of German troops. When the Nazis try to run inside the farmhouse for cover, they fire at the house. A Nazi climbs on board the tank and shoots Collier in the arm. Collier drags the Nazi into the tank, and he turns the Nazi's own knife on him and slashes his throat. Bible treats Collier's gunshot wound. Gordo opens his hatch to throw out more grenades, but when he stands, he is shot, dropping a live grenade into the tank. Gordo grabs the grenade and holds himself over it to protect the other men. So Collier decides he will man the second exterior machine gun mounted to the turret. He opens the hatch to jump out and calls out for Bible to hand him the rest of the grenades. When Bible sticks his head out to hand them to him, he is shot through the head by a sniper. Collier gets behind the exterior gun and guns down as many Nazis as he can until he is also shot several times by the sniper. He crawls back into the tank with Norman. Norman tearfully tells Collier that he's scared. Norman wants to surrender, but Collier tells him he shouldn't, as he will still be tortured and killed. He asks Norman if he can see the hatch below him. He replies that he does, and Collier tells him to get ready. The Nazis are on top of Fury and then open the hatch and drop an explosive inside. Collier tells Norman to go for the hatch. He opens it and dives down below the tank, and he hears the explosive go off inside, killing Collier. Norman quickly tries to scoop out a hole so he can hide beneath the tank. The Nazi troops seem to believe the whole crew is dead when one soldier crouches below with his flashlight and sees Norman. With tears in his eyes, Norman holds his hands up. The Nazi soldier says nothing and walks away. Hours later, Norman abruptly awakes to hear someone approaching. He climbs back into the tank, retrieves Collier's handgun, and waits for the hatch to be opened, prepared to shoot them. When the hatch is opened, he realizes that is it US Army troops and medics. They retrieve him from the tank, tell him he's a hero, put him in an escort vehicle, and send him away as the rest of the troops continue on.